snuffling away with hay fever is Michael Dolenz. Famous in the 60s as a member of the Monkees, of course, which is how I remember you. Michael's best known in the 80s as the producer-director of TV shows like Metal Mickey and Luna. He's just directed the West End stage production of Bugsy Malone.
Hooray.
And alongside Michael is somebody who I suspect might be the more design-conscious member of the family, Trina.
Yes.
How do you both feel about subjecting your home to the Lloyd Grossman treatment?
Well, we were told he wouldn't say anything nasty. He better not.
Oh, absolutely. No, he's very polite.
Oh, good.
A little nerve-wracking.
Yes,
I'm watching, Lloyd.
Yes, well, you will be. Here goes. Lloyd Grossman looking through the keyhole. And remember, Lloyd at this time has no idea whose house he's looking through.
Well, this really is home sweet home, isn't it? Take a look at this stained glass. Now, it's a good example of the rule that what we think is junk today is going to be an antique in 5 years. Because 5 or 10 years ago, people were ripping out late Victorian glass like that and throwing it away. But the way this has been very lovingly preserved show that we've got people living here who are design conscious. They really think about what their house looks like. Take a look at this, for example. Now, this is straight out of the foyer of the Troutbeck Manor House Hotel. It's got a feeling that says, we are English, this is England. We have a great example of Tudor-Beathan furniture here, circa 1965. Early Beatles period Elizabethan revival furniture, very important. A nice so-called tablescape of designer brown candles, real flowers for a change, that's a good sign. Nicely toned lamp. It's very good, that display of Panama hats for the summer. Very useful. Over here on this wall, we have a fine brace of holiday watercolors. So the basic message that this room is sending is, we are English, this is vaguely countrified English house, and it's very much a late Victorian period piece as well. Let's go through now and see what else we can find. Well, in a fairly complete contrast to the hall, which was very English, this is a very, very American room, and I think, in fact, someone who lives in this house probably is American because it's so neat and clean and well organized, unlike the clutter and the sloppiness that we're used to in English rooms. Now, what dominates this end of the sitting room is this rather extraordinary portrait of Sir Harry Seacombe. I don't know what it's doing here, but it's quite stunning and a very bizarre bit of art. Now, one object that we've got here is very characteristic of people who are in the music business, who are trying to establish the cultural legitimacy of the way they make money off of teenagers. And it's a very old wireless that's been rather lovingly preserved and restored, with a touch of the hippie era in here, this rather sort of psychedelic grill cloth. So we're probably dealing with someone who is in the music business, came to prominence during the sort of late 60s, I would think, tail end of the psychedelic era. Now, whoever has decorated this room really knows what he or she is doing there, because there's a very fine balance between the artificial, like these flowers and the logs in that fireplace, and the real, like these plants and the other flowers over there. So it's a very self-assured, well-balanced room. Now, we see something very typical in this house. The two rooms have been knocked together into one, and they've put a reinforced steel joist up here. And the people who live here are real RSJ people. They're the enlightened middle classes. They care about what sort of mustard they eat. They usually buy the overpriced kind that comes in a stone jar. And they buy a lot of things like chicken bricks at Habitat. We've also got a very fine piano here. Maybe it's decorative because it looks a little bit old, but I still think the person who lives here is a musician. There's a very interesting example of modern technological decadence here. We've got two remote controls for the television set and a video recorder, which is only about 3 feet away from the sofa. So either they're really lazy or they're complete gadget junkies who like to play around with things. Now, this living area, which is all done in pastel colors, is very soft and very feminine, and it suggests that either the guy who lives here has got a few problems, or that the woman in the house is the person who does all the interior design. Well, I think these people have a really good sense of humor, because the way these upside-down parasols are used is really funny, actually, and quite unusual. So there are people who think, a lot about design. Now, this room does have a very American feel in that it really takes the garden into the house, as it were. It's very casual, quite laid back, funky, as I think these people are. They don't do a lot of formal entertaining. I think they do a lot of heavy drinking in the garden, and you quite often find people staggering in and out looking for the loo, for example. They're very keen on flowers, and we've seen really beautifully arranged flowers all over the place. So it would suggest that someone in the house does spend a lot of time in the garden. What's great is the way they've brought the farm right inside the dining room. So they either drink a lot of Bloody Marys or they're absolutely crazy about tomatoes. They've got these great plants here. Now we're going to go see what the work area of the house looks like. Well, this is not the Christian Science reading room on the Star Trek Enterprise, but it shows the way in which new technology has come into everyone's house these days. It's very difficult to reconcile all this sort of hoo-ha with the traditional English style of this room. Look at those curtains, for example, which are very straight and old-fashioned, or the way the walls are stippled. Now, rooms like this have replaced rooms which used to be called the study or the library. This is a home office where all sorts of supposedly important things go on. It's so well organized that I think that the person or the people who live here are self-motivated. They're probably entrepreneurs, wheeler dealers of some sort. One thing that's for sure is that they're a reasonably well-adjusted family, because they obviously spend a lot of time in this house. If they weren't well-adjusted, they'd be killing each other, packed in such close proximity all day. They're a young family. They're quite go-ahead. I think they're possibly American or half American, involved in the music business. They've got a good sense of humor. Occasionally they're a little bit afraid of letting it show, but they're certainly very, very proud of this house, and they've worked a lot on it and worked in a very, very thoughtful and quite effective way.
Well, Michael and Trina Dolenz have been looking at Lloyd Grossman's verdict on you. What did you think?
Well, now I got a real surprise for you. That's not our house. No, we use a friend of ours' house just to pull a trick on you.
It's a shame.
Good. Aren't we clever? What a sense of humor.
He knew him, and he really got you pretty close, didn't he?
Yeah, it's very accurate.
Quite amazing, yeah. Quite amazing. I'm convinced he didn't know who I was either. Because
You said, I mean, the obvious giveaway was the portrait of Metal Mickey. He said was Sir Harry Seacombe. But he didn't get that, so he obviously doesn't know the Metal Mickey connection at all.
That's quite good.
Is there anything you really objected to?
No, not really.
There was one point that I was laughing about the point before, and you said, no, definitely not. And it was just before he was talking about Habitat chicken bricks or something.
Mustard in.
Oh, yes, we don't buy the brown
jars.
mustard in the jar.
Oh, I see.
Not really true.
You said, I would have thought the Bugsy hat on the in the hallway might have given it away as well.
Really?
But
It's funny
Because I thought he was going to say that he didn't wear them or something like that, just for looks, when in fact you wear all of them. So.
I usually do. I wear it all the time, and long before I started doing Bugsy Malone.
Really?
Yeah, long before.
I wondered if you'd left the hint around just specially for him.
No.
Did you go to any special lengths to hide certain things? Or?
Only stuff my name on it.
Well, we had a lot of gold records up and things, didn't we? And all up the staircases, sort of family pictures we had to take down. But that was really all.
No old monkey pictures or anything like that?
Yeah, there was a few
Well, yes,
that we had to take down.
Yeah, they would have been a dead giveaway, wouldn't they? He said straight away when he walked in the hall, they're very English, from the watercolour.
Yes, well,
That's American, actually. That first one is actually, isn't it?
That first one was actually, that first watercolor was given to me by a tribe of Indians, because I bailed them out of jail in the 60s.
Really?
Yeah.
That sounds one of your incredible stories.
Yeah, a bunch of Indians were arrested in Oregon for trying to fight the federal government on fishing rights. And some long-haired hippie Indian came to me one day in L.A. and said, well, you want to bail these Indians out? And at the time, I felt good about Indians. And I said, oh, wow, man, yeah, Indians, peace, Hare Krishna waterbeds. and bailed them out a few $1,000s, and they sent me a watercolor. It was lovely.
I see. And then he made up his mind definitely when he went into the living room that you were very American, or at least you were as a couple you were half American, which is
well, I took that as an insult. Actually. No, I'm quite Anglified.
Are well ordered about their... Yes, you're very proud of being over here, actually.
Oh, I love it. I'm quite happy to be here.
When did you make the decision, actually, to stay?
About 6 years ago.
So you haven't been over here too long?
No, I've been here many times before that.
Apart from Trina, what do you love about Britain?
Well, all the cliches, I guess, really. Being here only 6 years is still such a novelty, really. But all those cliches about quality of life and everything. are true. I mean, what can you say? Oh, of course they are. I mean, unless
it's rather nice.
Well, people don't realize how good they have it here. I can tell you that.
Why?
Well, you got about 2 hours. I mean,
he's embarrassingly pro about English.
And it's not just in comparison to America, but it's comparison to nearly every other country in the world. I've been very, very lucky. I've been able to travel an awful lot.
Because coming to Britain actually meant you changed your career slightly as well, from in front of camera to behind camera.
Yes, that's the reason one of the reasons I stayed. I mean, let's face it, I'm working over here and quite successfully. So, touch wood. That helps a lot. If you're not working, then of course it's a lot different. But the business over here is much better than the business in, for instance, Los Angeles and New York, where I would have to live if I was going to continue in the business there. A friend of mine came over from the States, actually, that works over there, a lawyer. And he said, over here, you make deals with people, and you shake hands, and you talk, and you have little meetings. And over in the States, it's right for the jugular. Which is true. It is. It's a different attitude, completely. Not that it's bad. It is different, but I'd rather...
For the sake of all the children watching, tell me about your meeting first off with Metal Mickey.
My first meeting?
Yeah.
Well, it was quite interesting because the operator, excuse me, the puppeteer as it was.
Is there a little man inside?
No. It's a real robot. With a remote control robot that an operator, a puppeteer, as it were, a ventriloquist, is working. And he refused to let us see him for months. He really wanted to continue and establish the illusion, which works very well. And so I met him in this little room, in this little recording studio. And he walked around running into walls because his feet didn't work too well at the time.
Is he difficult to...
Oh, how about... Oh, excuse me. How are you? Sorry?
Yes. Is he difficult to produce? But we're running out of time, actually. We're hoping that we'll be able to... You'll join us. Don't go yet. Don't go yet, because we'd like you to stay for competition time.
Oh, sure.
Meanwhile, ex-monkey to...
Rolling Stones, yes. Stick around, because you find this interesting, I hope. I promise. Yes, 14 years ago is 54 today.
You always have to go to his day.
Sorry about that, yes.
Right. Birthday time, and Michael, sorry, I mustn't call you Mickey. Michael, if you draw out 3 cards, these are people who've written in whose birthdays it is today.
Are you struggling with old hay fever then?
It's terrible, isn't it?
Are you always a sufferer?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Is that a first?
Yes,
It'll be right.
Want me to read them?
You do one, we'll do the other two.
What about Trina?
Yes, what Trina do one, they are.
Talking about birthdays, Trina, isn't it relevant to say you have one in the...
Definitely relevant.
One in the oven, as we say.
Very soon. Yeah.
How long to go?
About
Do on this show.
7 or 8 weeks, I think.
Do today. I'll
Just take
TV
it
AM
easy, don't
first.
Right, do you want to kick off?
Trina?
What would I just say who it's from?
Yes,
You go first.
Go on then.
Mine is from Master David Waring, 40 Hawthorne Road, Parkgate, Winnell, Cheshire. Age 10.
Today?
Yep.
Right, happy birthday, David.
Happy birthday, David.
Mine says, Dear Nick and Dan, could you please wish our son Adam a very happy birthday? He'll be 10 years old today. Love from Mummy and Daddy. And that's Adam Amos of 9 Allen Gardens, Romford in Essex. Trina.
Happy birthday, Adam.
Mine's from Mr. Frank Ramageris, 19 Linby Close, South Dean, Kirkby, near Liverpool.
And who's...
Read it.
Is it his birthday?
Dear, it goes on forever.
Your program is
Dear anybody,
terrible.
what? How's about picking this card for one of your Chucky egg holders? Because my wife Sally left, and my married daughter Mary Barry are blessed with sharing the same birthday. It's on the 5th of July, and everybody everywhere if everybody everywhere it was half as nice as them, the world would be twice as nice.
Oh, that's lovely.
That's nice.
See,
That's
the Chucky...
sort of moved on a bit from that, anyway.
That's the Chucky egg cup.
Oh,
Terrific, isn't it? Everybody gets one of those.
Do I get one?
Well, you're very special.
We must move on, actually. See if your hay fever's going to get even worse. Let's find out what's happening.